Alright, so here is your past life spread, and so what we're going to do is look at where you were, what you did with the majority of your time, an important day with the relationships and feelings involved, another important day, the death over here, and the lesson learned, and we'll get hints of time throughout this. So all I'm going to do is relay to you the images and impressions that are coming through, and your job is going to be to try to make connections where you can. So let's start. Here is where we are, and this is the Europe card. So obviously that encompasses a lot, but what I can tell you is this came out pretty quickly where it felt like we were going to France. And it feels like we're going to one of the hubs in France. I don't know if it's Paris, but it feels like it's a hub where either like a large city center, or one of, like, I don't know if they had like a lot of not like kingdoms, like, but the aristocracy, people who are really, really high up. It feels like it would be like at one of their properties, which is near or within even a major city at the time of this life. So it could be Paris, but it doesn't mean it's necessarily Paris. It does feel like we're like I'm being brought to a property there specifically, and it feels like it would be like the property is on the outskirts of this place, almost like there's why I say that is because I'm just like they're showing me like images of a lot of land surrounding the property. So it's not just the grand structure, which it does look like a grand structure, but it also it encompasses like a lot of property, like trimmed garden, like trimmed hedges of a garden, like a maze, like really well done gardens, like just like renowned gardens, even almost like a feeling like they might even be there today. That's what it feels like, because it feels like we're going back to a time like the French. I don't know if it's the French Revolution, but it's like that time period. It feels like 1700-ish, hundreds-ish, if that makes sense. Maybe creeping towards the 1600s, like 16, 17 crossover, that period of time. And it's showing me a lot of like a lot of decor and like posh, or like what am I looking like the architecture is very beautiful, and everything is a lot of like pomp and circumstance kind of thing, which I've never used that term in these readings before, but it feels like that. So I feel like we're actually going to where there is a lot of like royalty and aristocracy and fine cloth, like linen, like fine clothing, fashion. Like there's something about this place being like at the peak of its power, and the large dinners, something. So it feels like we're going to that kind of place in France, and and I feel like we're looking at the life of a female. So we're looking at an aspect of you that is female, and I'm trying to see if there's anything else about this. It feels like, it doesn't feel like this is your place. It feels like you are there. So it feels like you're tied to the structure, but not like it's not your structure. So there's some yeah, it feels like so the word that would be coming through is and bear with me, but like scullery maid, like someone who works at the palace, someone that works in the manor, someone that works at the mansion. So you work. So they're showing me on you, they're showing me plain clothing, and it's almost like very in contrast to those that you work for. So they want to, it's like almost like they're showing me all this grandeur, and then here you are where you're able to see it but not partake in it. So any connections you can make to this. So for example, some connections might be something like, have you ever been pulled towards Paris, France, the French countryside, or French decadence, or in school, if when you were learning about the French Revolution, or like that era, or that region, Did it ever intrigue you, trigger you, pull you in? Is it somewhere you want to go? Is this a place on your bucket list? Fashion. If fashion is important to you, not just fashion, but fine detail. There is something, like they're showing me an up close thing of lace, like where it's finely made, handmade lace, and it's so fine and delicate and pure white and something to be kept clean forever. Like it's so if you are into textures or textiles like clothing, fashion, fine details, almost like an artistry. If you find fashion to be artistry, if you find dressing yourself to be artistry or important to you in any way, that would be a connection. Another connection you could be making is that concept of being at a place but not being of it. So if you, for example, like if you ever feel in your life, if you have felt out of place in a way where it's like you can be at a party but be observing the party and not feel like you're part of the party. If you've ever had feelings like that, that's what this feels like. This also can connect with you in the way of grandeur versus the lack of. So you can make direct and opposite connections with these readings. So a direct connection would be, in your current life, you may find that you have continued the role of the common folk, I guess you would say, or the person who cleans up after people, but in this lifetime it would be, I don't know if we do have maids, I guess, but yeah, like that kind of thing, I guess housekeeping or something, but it feels more like it could be as random as, do you have a kid and you pick up after the kid a lot? Like, I know it sounds so random and weird. It's like, yeah, if you're a mom, you're going to be picking up after the kid. But that would be a direct connection, is to continue the role we see here into your current life. On the other hand, what I feel like it can be also is the opposite connection. So when our soul experiences something in one life, sometimes, a lot of times, it likes to come back to experience something completely different because they're all lessons. So the point is to accumulate these lovely lessons, right? So when it comes to this, it would be the opposite in that, do you find in your current life that you have chosen a family that's a little more well off or comfortable financially, where you don't have to work from a young age in order to save or get what you need, where you would have chosen to come into this life and you find that you are more comfortable or more accepted into, I hate to use the word higher society because I'm not, like, I don't like to divide people up like that, but it is what it is, kind of thing. So do you feel comfortable or feel like you can really move easily around in different classes of people, if that makes sense? Easily adaptable as far as mannerism and connectedness to certain, like, so, to regular Joe Schmo, and then maybe someone who's in politics, or someone who is, you know what I mean? Just like all these different, I don't know, there's a lot of examples, they're just not coming to mind, but like that's what I'm trying to get at is, do you find that you veer towards one or the other, or able to adapt? Is that a theme in your life? If not, that's fine, but that's just the type of connection you can be making. Also, what else is there? Okay, so so because we're looking at someone who is in the working class, you may connect with that on a couple of different levels, not just what we talked about before about the different classes, but something about you admiring when you see people working for what they've gotten, like not having things handed to them, but seeing basically what I'm saying is that it's almost like, are you highly impressed by people who make themselves, who what's the word, not make themselves, but who you know what I mean? Like they start their own business from nothing and build their way up, that kind of thing. Someone who makes something of themselves just by their sheer will and hard work. If that is very admirable to you, that would be a connection here. At the same time, keep in mind, if you are in a position in this life where you've chosen to come and be taken care of your whole life, either by your parents or by a husband or whatever it is, nothing to be ashamed of. It's just, it is what it is, because in this life you weren't. So you could see how you could be making certain connections like that. Also, I do want to mention something about that whole beginning of the grandeur and the architecture and the design. If in addition to the textiles we were talking about, also if you have an eye for design, if you have a big appreciation for certain architecture, and also the gardens came through for some reason. So if you are, it's almost like the gardens, I want to say, came up for a little message for you that if you're looking to de-stress, go out to nature. It's almost like a little thing of try just going to nature. And if you're not the kind that wants to like hike through the woods, it's almost like go to the botanical gardens, right? Or go to a garden, go somewhere where it's refined and it's clean, and you can walk and be in nature at the same time and not have to worry about, hiking through the forest or something like that. I just feel like that's a little message coming through for you, that if you need to ground and de-stress, and it's almost like also take time for yourself, go to the gardens. It's outside, it's fresh air. There's something about it that would be, I think, very good and clean for your soul, if that makes sense. So keep that in mind and keep making connections here where you can. So let's go to what you did for the majority of your time. So this card is the laborer card, which would make sense since Scullery Maid came through. Let's see what comes through with this card. So we are working on this property. Oh, which by the way can be another connection if you don't like the idea of working for other people, but not in the sense where you would be considered almost their equal, but like full on working for another person. That might not serve you this time around. It might cause stress to you. So if you have a job and you're unhappy at the job, it would probably likely be because you are feeling micromanaged, or you're feeling like you have to please somebody. And it's almost like your soul is done with that. So what's coming through is, if there's anything having to do with working, job, career, or even just like doing something for yourself, that's what I feel like is coming out, is making sure that it's based on what you are passionate about, what you love, where something that you're able to pour your soul into, and also get recognized for your creative, connection to it. So no one else is saying, this is my work and my employees help, like that kind of thing. Like making something your own. That might be very important to you, or it may be very helpful for you in regards to what direction to go into if a time comes up, if not now, but if a time comes, it might be now, but if a time comes up when you are wondering, okay, I'm getting antsy, or I want something new, I want to change, what should I do? Do whatever feels creative and intuitive to you. So, it could be starting a business, or it could be doing an art project that turns into something you don't know. So keep that in mind should you ever feel that antsy feeling like you should be doing something. But keep in mind too that micromanagement and having a boss might not work for you. So I feel like there's a lot of creativity in you that wasn't able to be expressed in this life that may be coming out in your current life. And it would do you very well to honor that and to pursue it and pay attention to it, okay? Because I feel like if that's the case, and you feel like that, if you feel that creativity and you are urged to do something, this would be the time to do it. You're in a time period now where you have freedom and independence. And, back then I feel like this woman was very repressed or suppressed or whatever, just being a woman, not just her status as a working class, but like being a woman in itself was very repressive. So I feel like you picked this time period in order to express yourself. Like this is your moment. You get to say what you want, create what you want, be what you want, that kind of thing. So don't take it for granted. Don't push it aside. If you get an idea, start working on it. Don't put it aside, because you're not going to get to it later. Do it now. Which brings through another message of making sure that you are as present in the present moment as you can be, because when you're present in the present moment, that's when you're going to get those ideas coming through you that you'll be able to pay attention to and connect with. Oh, do you hear that? That is a very close plane out there, huh? Anyway, yeah, so you want to stay present so that you can pay attention to those ideas and intuitive hits that are coming up and through you that want to be recognized. So if you're dwelling on the past or looking to the future too much, you may miss those lovely little gems that are in you. So stay present, and that will be very useful to you. Okay, so keep making connections where you can here. Before we go on to the first important day, I also want to mention the laborer card, where the laborer card is a worker. You're working hard. I feel like you are like, it's like a maid. It's like a washing thing, and it's a keeping everything clean kind of thing. So that also might be a connection for you as far as your personality in this life. If you find that you are someone that is a perfectionist or OCD about certain cleanliness, or you like things clean, or you freak out if someone's coming over and things aren't perfect, if that's you at all, it would be a connection to this. Now that would be a direct connection, whereas an opposite connection would be in this life, maybe you just don't even care at all. And that's okay. If you didn't care about that kind of thing, that would make sense, because you may be so tuckered out about it from here, that in this life you want to take a breather and just not care about the cleanliness of things. But that's for you to connect with, so that you can make that direct connection or the opposite. Also the hard work card, again, you may have come back into this life to be taken care of, or you've come back into this life to continue working hard, but in the circumstances that allow you to work for yourself and use your own creativity and expression and intuitiveness. Intuition. There you go. So keep that in mind. Keep making connections. Now let's go to this first important day here. This is the conquered, welcome, or they've come card. And that means that there are people coming into the area, and it's either for good reasons or bad reasons, or, you know what I mean? So they're either allies or they're enemies. We'll see what's happening here, but there are people arriving. Now, this card here is soulmate, and soulmate does not always mean romantic. It can, but it doesn't always mean that. It just means someone who is someone you were supposed to meet. It could have been for 5 minutes, it could be for a year, and it could be a lifetime. Doesn't matter. The time period doesn't matter with a soulmate. It's just meeting this person can do many things. One, just meeting them, being around their energy can be the reason you were supposed to meet, or it could be a conversation you had, or it could be a lifetime of lessons. Whatever it is, there's a change that these people, these soulmates, bring to you. And then here is a feeling of loneliness. And it's a melancholy or lonely, things like that. So I'm trying to see what's happening here. Because I see you staying in the region and staying on that property. So you're not going. It feels like someone is coming in and then leaving. I'm trying to see what's happening. Okay. So what it feels like is a guest arrives for the people you work for. A guest arrives. And when the guest arrives, they bring their own entourage and their own people, like their own servants. So their servants are joining you and your people, the servants on your property. And I feel like this is where you actually meet. It feels, hold on, this is really interesting. It feels like you meet a romantic partner here. It feels like this soulmate is romantic, actually. That's what it feels like. So it's almost like there's something about an instant connection. It's inside. There's an area inside where everybody gathers, like a daily, like their meal, their lunch, whatever it is, where they all eat. The servants. It's like the servants' quarters. And I feel like there's this instant chemistry. And I feel like there is, I feel like you guys there's like chemistry, love, and sex. And I feel like you just fall into it with each other, almost like you can't help yourselves. And I feel like this goes on for the duration of that stay, the whole duration. And it's almost like the happiest you've ever been is what it feels like. And it feels like you're in your mid-20s or mid-20s. You're young. It's like 20, no later than mid-20s. And anyway, it feels like there's a lot of passion, and there's a lot of chemistry, and there's a lot of being on the same page with this person and being on the same rhythm with this person. And again, it feels like the most joy you've ever had in your life up till now. And I'm trying to see how long this goes on for, because I feel like that the visitor is staying for like a short, like the season is what it feels like. It's like, I'm coming for the season. So they come in for the season, and you have a season. It's like a summer. It's almost like that summer love, like a whole summer of like this awesome thing where you feel like you've evolved, and then you're enlightened, and you have your lover, and it's like this magical time. And then it's time to go, and he has to go back, because I feel like at this time, these people, it's almost like you, him, whatever, it's like they own you. It feels like you're property in that sense, even though I don't feel like it's slavery. So it's not slavery, it's servantry, but it feels like it's so permanent that it's not like you can just pick up and be like, bye, So there's a separation that occurs, and he goes back after the season is done. And this feeling of lonely melancholy, there's almost like a depression that happens, because it's like the sun was taken from your world, never to shine again, is what it feels like. It's really, it's almost like, I don't even want to say depressing more than shock. It's almost like you go into shock. So how you may connect with this, by the way, make connections where you can, but how you might connect with this is when you are in fight or flight mode. If you're in a moment where you don't know what to do, you might be someone that freezes. So if a moment comes and you're scared, or a choice has to be made or whatever, if you find that you're someone that freezes, that can't make a choice, or it's really difficult for you to make choices when it comes to being like in that moment of like where it's very like an emotional like a moment of shock. Again, it might be very difficult for you to move past being surprised or being shocked. Or another thing might be where you are someone that does not like surprises. So if you're someone that doesn't like surprises, this would be why. And if not, that's fine, but that might be a connection. Another connection may be you may be someone that takes a while to warm up to in regards to getting very close to. It may specifically be intimate sexual relationships, or romantic relationships, I should say. So if you find that it takes a lot to warm up, I'm not saying even like, I'm not talking about like having sex, I'm talking about like getting to that emotional intimacy that lovers have, you know what I mean, like that kind of thing. So if you have any emotional walls up, or used to have had emotional walls up when it comes to potential partners or whatever it is, that would be a direct connection here. On the other hand, if you find that you just like love everybody, and you're open and transparent, and like I love you, that kind of thing, that would make sense too in an opposite way, because of the feeling here. Your soul might want to experience something different, where it's like, all right, I'm coming back, no walls, I'm just gonna love to love, I'm not gonna hold on to this soul grudge, basically, is what it feels like. So if you do find that you do have walls up, just consider that to be what I call sometimes a soul grudge, where this was so traumatic to you that it stayed with your soul and would continue in the same kind of way. So keep that in mind and make connections where you can. This may also indicate if you find that you have depressive dips in your life, like sometimes you just have a few days where you're just done with the world and you're like, like, you know, maybe you need to hermit away in your home or whatever it is, you just don't want to, you don't want to be functioning, so to speak. That would make sense too, because I feel like that's what happened, even though it's like, autopilot, what it is. So if you find that, you might find actually that when you do have lower moods, you go on autopilot. Maybe like almost tuning everything out and just getting everything done that needs to get done, but without any emotional attachment or attention, really. That would be something, if that speaks to you in any way, it would be connected to here. If not, great. Doesn't matter, it's all good. Just make connections where you can. The soulmate card, this person here, I feel like this person's in your life. And I feel like it's almost like a karma thing. And I have a karmic card. I have for the relationship, I have a karmic card for relationships. And obviously it's, you know, it's not here, but this feels karmic. It feels, and it's not even bad karma. It's just that it was unfinished business. This love was unfinished. So in your current life, if you feel like you if you are with someone and you feel like that person is your all-consuming love, is the love of your life, I feel very much like this would be that soul. Because I feel like there's so much unfinished business here, it's almost like palpable. So if you're not with someone, then there's going to be somebody where you're going to feel this way. You may even, having heard this now, and if you're either with someone or not and you're going to meet them, just keep in mind that it may feel like this. It may feel like when you met them or as you've dated them or whatever it is, you may have this weird feelings like, oh, I know this person, or I feel like there's something unfinished that needs to be finished, or you may have, like if you're with someone, it may have been the kind of thing where you felt so much just like being a part, you just wanted to be part of that person's life. Or if you're not with that person, that's what it's going to feel like, if that makes sense. So there should be some feeling when it comes to your ultimate partner, like ultimately who you end up with kind of thing, I feel like is this person. It doesn't mean this person is going to be like, it doesn't necessarily mean this person is like your Prince Charming and does everything right in life and is, you know, but that person will be just perfect for you. You know what I mean? So keep that in mind. Keep making connections. This, that. I feel like also there is something about the whole point of like him coming in just for a season and then leaving. I feel like there's something there as far as making a connection with how you feel about things that are temporary versus permanent. You may be someone who really needs reassurance that this is forever. You might need reassurance that I'm here to stay, or I will always love you, or no matter what you do, I'll be here for you. If you feel like you need reassurance or desire that kind of reassurance from your loved ones, that would be a connection here and makes sense, because this was almost like ripped out from under you, and it was, again, a shock to your system. It was traumatic. So with that kind of trauma or soul grudge, it would make sense that you would have those feelings in this life. And if not, that's fine. But just be aware of that if that is a connection for you. So let's go to the next important day. Here we have a birth. And this doesn't always mean that you're giving birth. It can mean you're attending a birth, or, you know, whatever. There's a lot that can happen with this. But the relationship involved is family. And then this is the card of love. And you probably know what I'm about to say. It feels very much like this person and you have a child together and he doesn't find out. Or at least it doesn't feel like he ever finds out. Because again, it feels like you're separated by a lot of distance. There's no phone. You know what I mean? And there's just no way to reach him. It feels like he got you pregnant. It feels like you're actually quite content with that, despite what others may think about you, or what others say about you, you know, because I feel like there is judgment surrounding this, but it's almost like you're above all of that because you're on cloud nine when you realize that you're pregnant with this baby. It's almost like you get him back this way. You think, it's like I can even feel a thought that this aspect of you is thinking is that you have him back in this form, as a, you know, you'll have a piece of him with you forever, or you know, during your life. And so this family card comes in because this child becomes the only family that you really have. In a way, the child somewhat, I feel like it alienates some of your friends. By friends, I mean co-workers as working with you on this property. At the same time, it also brings people to you that you before didn't have a close bond with. And I feel like I'm talking about older, like there's specifically at least one older woman who before you both were very like just polite, neutral, maybe not even polite, but like just very neutral, not with each other. But when she found out that you were pregnant and you started to show and things like that, it feels very much like this woman actually ends up being the one helping you deliver your baby, and you get a very close bond with this woman where it's almost like you two are family as well. So this child brings family to you. And also the child gets rid of people who don't have your best interests in mind. So this is such a blessing for you, and you know it. And the feelings of love, it makes so much sense. I mean, this child brings so much love into your life. And it also, this, I'm trying to see if it's a girl or boy, because it feels like a boy. And it feels like it feels like he looks like his father. And so it's almost like you get every day you get to spend time with this man that you'll never see again through his child, if that makes sense. So there's so much about this that's just very emotional and it's almost unexpected. I don't know, it's just like this, it's really hard to articulate. I feel like I'm being given feelings that I literally cannot translate or articulate here because of how deep they are. Even that word is not right. Deep is not right. How profound they are. These feelings are so profound I can't even describe it. And it's almost like the kind of thing where only once you're a mother do you know your love for your child. If you're not a mother, you don't know what it's like to love a child. That kind of thing where you can't even understand it until you experience it. That's what this feels like right here. So how you can be connecting with this could be, one, you in your current life may be yearning to create a family, or two, you made sure to start a family early on, possibly. Three, let's see, what else was the older woman is important because I feel like she is back in your life as well, and she's a soul family member as well. Keep it, so when I say that, when I'm talking about, if I say this older woman who's in your life who, you know, at first you didn't get along, and then you did because something brought you together, and now in your current life there may be someone who you never saw being so close to and it brought you together. If someone comes to mind, that is probably the person. If no one comes to mind, that's fine, but it feels like this woman has come back. Doesn't mean she's a woman in this life either, so keep that in mind. This is not gender specific here, you know, when it comes to souls and lives, you know, you can be male, female, whatever. And then, there was something else here. I want you to keep making connections when it comes to this, but this is so profoundly enlightening. It's almost like, I feel like saying, if you choose to have children in this life, having those children or that child will be so much more profound than you even imagined it would be. And not just having the child, but watching the child grow. You're going to and this is only if you want to have children, okay? I'm not pushing you to have kids. Like, honestly, I'm someone that's like, don't have kids unless you really want kids. You know what I mean? But in this case, what I'd like to say is, if you do end up having children, it's going to be the process of rearing them, nurturing them, and watching them grow that is going to be so profound, so magical, it's going to be so fulfilling. And it feels like this time around, there's going to be a partner involved with the rearing of this child, not the older woman here, but there's going to be, I feel like this person is going to be part of watching the child grow or children grow because in this life he didn't get to. So there's karma between this lover here and this child here, if that makes sense. So not only is there karma between you two here, the lovers, but there's also karma between your child and the father. So it feels very much like this is being brought up to reflect what's going on currently in your life, that you can expect a situation to come with this karma being resolved if you allow it, if that makes sense. So keep that in mind. Please keep making connections. I feel like there's a great importance to this in a very positive way. It's almost like this, I want to say, I've never said this before, but it's almost like you really can't fuck it up this time. It feels like this life is really just to give you the fuller aspect of the joy here that was missing because of the loss of one of them, if that makes sense, even though the child brought so much joy. Anyway, keep making connections where you can. I'm sure there's more in there. Let's move to the death. So here we have the water card. And I'm trying to see what comes through here specifically, because the water card it's not always drowning, you know? I mean, there's been so many weird instances of death with water come through that it's not always drowning. In fact, it's not drowning. This one does not feel like drowning. So I'm just going to see if they want to give me some details. Sometimes if they don't give me details, it's because it doesn't matter. So what I feel like is coming through now, they're showing me a lot of rain. A lot of rain for a season gets you sick. And I feel like that is what actually happens, is you get something in your lungs, something with like bronchitis or pneumonia, and I feel like you die from a sickness, but it all started from the season, from the rain, from that kind of weather. That's what it feels like. So any connection you have to that, such as, one, do you get sick every winter? You know, I mean, like, do you get like a yearly sickness? Do you have a low immune system? Do you get stuff in your lungs? Do you have asthma? Breathing issues? Anything having to do with lungs and breathing, and, you know, have you gotten bronchitis? Have you gotten pneumonia? Do you get the flu? Do you get colds? That kind of thing. If you're susceptible to that, or you have been, like maybe you were in your childhood, that kind of thing, because these things can come in phases. If that speaks to you in any way, it would be connected here, and if not, that's fine, but that's the only thing I feel like would come through, unless it's rainy weather. You might be someone that just is like, no, I'm good, I'll just stick with the sun. Like, if you're a sun girl, if you like sun and dry weather, or just like, you know, clear weather basically that's safe, you know, like not rain, not storms, not snow, and weather that can get you sick. If you like to stay away from the rain, or not even go out and drive in the rain, basically, like if rain is an excuse for you to kind of stay home and get cozy, that could be a connection as well. So keep that in mind. Now, the lesson here is lovely. It's simplicity, and it's really interesting because there's a dualistic aspect. So simplicity in this life, you definitely learned it, but in this life, the simplicity of it is the thing that held you back, in the way that it kept you apart from the love of your life. It really did hold you back, because again, based on the times that we're looking in, the period of time and what was going on, the simple lifestyle, it was more confining than freeing. And I feel like this is coming through for your current life now too, because there is a lot more joy that you can take in simplicity, and you're going to find, I feel like you're going to find that if this comes to pass where you found a partner and you feel like you do end up wanting to have children, or maybe you do already, I don't, whatever it is, the choices you make in your current life, the simplicity of it will be the best part. The mornings spent waking up to someone you love, the just being able to look over at someone and know they're there and they'll always be there. Watching the ones you love enjoying themselves and knowing they're safe, and you know what I mean, like that kind of thing. Those simple moments. If you decide to have children, the handwritten cards in their awful handwriting is going to fill your heart with so much pride and joy. You know what I mean? Those little tiny simple things are going to be the biggest things of your life, if that makes sense. So make sure that you are paying attention and that you are being present, because that's where you're going to find the most profound things, and they're always the simplest too. And what comes through, a lot of messages that come through, because I do regressions as well, so hypnosis kind of stuff, and most of the messages that come through from, we'll say if we bring in loved ones or the higher self or whatever, when we get messages, usually they are so simple, but they make such an impact because it's the thing you need to hear. It's the messages that is simply, I love you. I've always loved you. I miss you. I'm watching over you. You are loved. Like those very simple, basic messages you think are just like, so, I guess like typical. You hear that a lot, like where loved ones will come through if you're seeing a medium or something and the loved one says I love you. A lot of people are like, yeah, everyone says I love you, but no, truly, like that's what it's all about. It's all about that love. It's all about the relationship. It's about the continuing connecting, the connectedness that never dies, because we're all always connected no matter what, right? So I just feel like that's what's coming through here, is to remember the simple things are most of the time the most profound and the most touching, the most moving, the things we'll remember the most. Okay? But keep making connections where you can when it comes to simplicity. Anyway, there is your past life. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you're able to make some connections, and thanks for letting me read you.